life just seems to get harder and harder by the minute. And a lot of people are questioning more things than they used to. Like, I didn't realize we had gone live. So apologies for that. Particularly, people are questioning their career and earnings. So for my career development series, I'm starting with how to manage change in the workplace. Because whether we like it or not, change is ever constant. So it's either we figure out how to adapt and win, or we get left on the sidelines. And with me to discuss this is an old school friend of mine, Gbemisola Attah. Attah is a strategy consultant and financial advisor with over 20 years of professional experience in various fields. She's the managing partner of AG Partnerships and the chairperson of Simplified Credit and Royal Family Academy. As a change manager, Angela has helped many organizations in Africa and Europe navigate through complex changes within their organizations. Angela has an undergraduate in economics from the University of Abuja, Nigeria, and an MBA from INSEAD, France, and Singapore. I'm super excited to have you here. And like I said to everybody, we went to Adesoye College together, so Adesoye College for the win.
Thank you, Feran.
So let's get right in. Change management. What is change management?
Right, so change management is a systematic approach to support, prepare, and organize individuals, teams, and organizations towards change, transition, or transformation. Simply put, it's a way to simplify and ensure that the change process is effective in a place. So
I see.
Yeah.
To simplify and make sure that the change process is effective in a place. How is it relevant in today's world?
Well, change is constant.
Yep.
And in the workplace especially, we've got so many reasons why organizations are changing. The economy is changing, markets are changing, consumers and customer tastes and preferences are changing. Organizations themselves are trying to get more efficient, are trying to be more profitable. So there's so many reasons why organizations embark on change. And so for an organization to stay relevant, they will go through change. Therefore, it is important to see how to manage this change. Otherwise, you won't get the benefits of, going into that change process.
Okay, so you've talked about it from the perspective of organization. So let's bring it to the employee. How do employees navigate around organizations changing?
Now, the fact is, for any organization to go into a change process, it's because there is an objective that the organization wants to achieve. And so I think, firstly, the organization sets the objective and says, this is what we want to achieve by going through change. So the purpose of change, you must start with the purpose all the time. It's the why, right? So the organization says the why, sets the tone as to the purpose for change. And then the employees key into whatever that purpose is.
Okay.
What do they do? Once they understand the purpose, we then go to what exactly are we changing? What's the agenda? What are we changing? What are we eliminating? What are we starting? What are we supposed to do differently, right? And then I think the third stage is then planning that change. The organization will help the employees to plan the change, determine how the change will come about. Are we introducing technology? Are we, starting new lines of business? Are we bringing new leadership? What exactly are we going to do? So there's a change agenda that comes through, right? And it's with that change agenda that the employees then know exactly what to do. Remember that, as human beings, we don't really like to change. We're creatures of comfort in the things that we know how to do. And so we must manage employees so that you get the best out of the change situation in terms of productivity, motivation, and ensure that your objective for going through change actually happens.
Okay, so that sounds great, but it sounds very theoretical.
Okay.
Yeah, and it sounds very organization-centered. I am in an organization that is going through change. Yeah.
What must I do?
I am trying to figure out how to navigate. What do I need to do? How do I even move forward? Me, not the organization, me.
Okay, so as an individual, I think the first thing is to embrace change, to recognize that change will happen. And so ask yourself, how can I key into this change to ensure that, I'm part of the process and I can help this organization to deliver on the objectives that they have. So as an individual, the first thing I think is it's a mindset shift, to the place where we know change is going to happen. And then you're saying to yourself, how can I be part of this process to ensure that it's a positive thing? That's the first thing. A second one is get knowledgeable, understand what the change is about and how you can actually contribute to improving that. There will be new learnings. In many cases of change, it would mean that the employee themselves would have to learn new skills or understand new things or stop doing things that they were doing before. But you must key into that process. Otherwise, you get left behind. If it's technology, you need to learn about the new things. Otherwise, you become obsolete in a changing environment. So as an employee, I think the first thing is to change your mindset. The second thing is to get knowledgeable. And then the third thing is to actually get involved and do the things you're doing. When I was talking about the organization setting the agenda, part of what the organization will also do is to monitor and evaluate to see whether they're actually achieving the objectives for change. And that's something that, even individuals can key into. Ask yourself, have I really contributed what I was supposed to do to ensure that this change happens? Because too often employees feel it's the organization changing, but you make up the organization. You're a key part of the organization. So it must come down to an individual. How can I contribute? What must I do? How can I do it differently? How can I do it better? How can I support this change? And if I'm going into a new role, what must I learn, or what must I stop doing to ensure that we actually deliver on the objectives of change?
Okay, so lots of very useful tips there. But okay, let me paint a scenario. The individual wants to embrace the change, wants to be a part of the solution, wants to get stuck in, but they're lacking in motivation. Either from a financial standpoint, from a fulfillment standpoint. How do you get that person who potentially has raw talent, and has a lot of potential? How do you get that person to become motivated, when honestly they're just like, I can't.
So from a standpoint of the employer is what you're asking now. So as an employer, I think it's in the employer's interest that the change works. And so the employer must drill it down to the teams and the individual to ensure that the individual is actually well equipped to handle the change. And as I was saying before, you set an agenda, you create a plan so that it's very clear what needs to be done. If you leave things loose and just expect that, she'll figure it out, it won't happen. But if you set a clear agenda, I think that's one step where you're helping the individual to understand the expectations. What exactly do I expect from this person? That's part of the plan. Who is responsible for it? What resources must I commit to this process to ensure that the individual is equipped to deliver on the change? What can I do to support this person in terms of training, mentorship, support? What can I do? So as an employer, I must be looking at it. It's organizational, but you must look at it to teams and to the individual, because it's that individual that will contribute to make the team successful. And ultimately, those teams will make the organization successful. So it must come to the plan, ensure that there's a clear plan. 2, have a support system around, the individuals to help them, for their learning and all of that. And you always measure, you monitor, you evaluate, and you give the feedback so that the change is dynamic. Feran, I need you to do this. And then you're working on it. And then we see that it's not quite, achieving the objective. We have to come back and say, look, let's evaluate it. What can we do differently? How can we do it better? How can we support you better? And that way, it's a collective, and the organization is able to achieve the objectives of change.
Okay. Ideal organization, ideal scenario.
Yeah.
Now I'm left to self-motivate.
Okay.
What do I do?
You're left to self-motivate. What do you do as an individual? And I would go back to the tips I gave in the beginning. I think the first thing is all in our mind. Because as individuals, we don't like change. We love, to stay in our comfort area. The things I know are the things I know. The people I know are the people I'm comfortable with. But we must step out. In a change situation, you don't have that luxury. And so it's first in the mind. It's telling yourself that, look, change is here. It's going to happen, whether I key into it or not. But better to be part of that, of the positive experience. And so first is to tell yourself the truth that I have to key into this. And so self-motivate. And so you would stop looking at what's happening externally, what my employer didn't do, what my team leader didn't tell me, what plan didn't work. Because things happen, that's life, or policies change, markets change, things happen. And so it must be by yourself, but it must come to your own beliefs as a person, your principles as a person. What do I want to achieve at the end of the day? What do I want to be remembered by? What do I want people to say about me? Do I want them to say I was part of this failed experience? Or do I want them to say that, oh, I spearheaded the change, or I contributed to the change, or I helped to make a difference, or, oh, where that person is, that is a solution provider. I want to be known as a solution provider. So as much as possible, it starts with the individual. We must speak to ourselves. And too many people actually feel that, they're not as important. A lot of people feel, oh, I'm just 1 in 1,000, or, they won't even know if I'm not there. But unfortunately, that's not true. I think of myself differently. I think of myself as a catalyst. And if we all have this catalytic mindset where we know that as individuals, what I do matters. Therefore, I must do it to my best. I must give my best at the things I do. I must be excellent at the things I deliver, and that way you're part of the positive, the positive change. You're a productive driver of change. You're part of the solution. I think that's something that everyone can do, because you can self-motivate, you can talk to yourself, you can change yourself, you can help yourself, you can go on the internet and learn new things. Thank God for YouTube, and you can contribute those things. And that does not depend on whether my employer paid me, or I got a bonus, or I was promoted. No, that is you for yourself. But if we're thinking about it as, oh, it's my employer's fault, if it's always somebody else's fault, then you don't take responsibility. So I guess my one message, if I was to wrap this up in one, would be to say, self-motivate. It's not about anyone else. It's about you, for yourself, for your legacy, for your own growth. Self-motivate.
For yourself, for your legacy, for your own growth. That is deep. It really is. And we need to hear that a lot more often. So I've done all these things. I've self-motivated. I've put my best foot forward, but nobody sees it. What then?
Easy to
I think nobody
sees it. Yeah. So easy to get discouraged when you think you're not appreciated, or nobody sees what I do. But I always say to people that people see. That they don't say, or they don't acknowledge, or they don't compensate you, doesn't mean that they don't see, And if you really are in a place where nobody sees you, then you really need to evaluate what you're doing, because perhaps you're not doing enough. If the guy who sweeps my office does not sweep my office, at least I will notice. If the guy who cleans my table doesn't dust it for 2 days, I will notice that dust has settled. If the person who washes the bathroom doesn't do it, I will notice that it's not done. So every role must be important. But if your role is so inconsequential that if I don't do it, nobody sees, and so if I do it well or I don't do it well, nobody sees, then you must reevaluate, or you must go to your employer and say, I don't think I'm doing something that contributes positively to this organization. And so to say that every one of us, no matter what we're doing, honestly have a part to play in the workplace or wherever we find ourselves. So whether it's in a home, or it's in a team environment, or it's in an organization, we all have a part to play. And where you believe that your role is no longer important, or nobody sees you, or it doesn't matter, then you're in the wrong place and it's time to go. Or it's time to actually have that difficult conversation around what more I should be doing, because everyone must contribute their quota. And I dare say that in contributing, ensure that you're giving it your best. I must be the best at the things I do. If I sweep, I want to sweep and be the best sweeper, so that I will be missed in a place. If all I'm supposed to be doing is cleaning the windows, I want to do it so efficiently that when I'm not there, I am missed for not doing it properly. But too many of us are comfortable to be mediocre, are comfortable not to do enough, are comfortable to just get paid and go away. But life is more than the payment that you think you receive. It's much more than that. It must be about ourselves, about how we contribute to whatever team we find ourselves, whether it's marriage, or it's a family, or it's a workplace, whatever it is. Make sure that you're an important, a valuable contributor, so that you're missed. and it's beyond, what somebody pays you in terms of money.
This has actually been really, really impactful. And I cannot wait to watch it again, because it's almost like you've said a lot of really hard things that a lot of us don't necessarily want to hear. If you were going to leave us with 3 to 5 practical tips, that you've said a lot of things, but if somebody had their notebook and their pen and they wanted to write 3 to 5 practical tips that they can begin to implement to be a part of this change, what would they be?
I think the first thing would be, it's about me as an individual. It's not about my employer or who congratulates me or who gives me accolades. It's about me as an individual. What is it that I want to bring to the table? What is it that I want to be known by? What is it that I want to be remembered by? What is my, that's your legacy. What is it that I want to be known for? So you as an individual, always start by asking yourself, from this process or in this environment, what is it that I am bringing to the table? So the first thing for me is, as an individual, ensure that you're contributing something important. Ensure that you're giving it your best. So for me, it's individual. The second thing is, it's a mindset shift. Stop thinking about those accolades. I know it's difficult in this social media generation where, everyone's posting and blabbing, oh, I have 1 million people following me, but honestly, it's not about those things, right? Those things will come. It's almost like, and they will be added onto you. Focus on yourself. So first, be an individual. Second, ensure that your mind is in the right place, because it really starts with our mind. Shift your mind from those things outside. Take responsibility. As an individual, I must take responsibility. Where things fail, ask yourself, what was my portion in contributing to this failure? What could I have done differently to ensure that the organization or the team or the task didn't fail? So let's take responsibility as individuals, And thirdly, I think my third tip really would be, if you're already in a change environment, think about the objective and say to yourself, I must be part of this positive change. I must ensure that it works. While I'm here, it can't fail. It means going beyond your scope of work. It means going beyond your comfort area. It means going outside the things that, people expect you to do. That would be, what I would leave. First, as an individual, equip yourself, give your best. Secondly, shift your mind to ensure that you're not focused on, the exterior and what people will say, more towards, what is it that I'm doing, my legacy. And thirdly, while I'm here, I must give it my best and it mustn't fail, because I'm here.
Thank you so much, Angela. I really cannot wait to watch this again, because, like I said to you earlier, there's a lot of change going on in my life. So with most of my topics, they're as a result of the things that I'm experiencing or is happening around me. So thank you. This has been super, super impactful. Short, very, very, very packed. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So yeah, we've come to the end. And I really, really hope that a lot of us have listened, written down notes, will watch it again, and have just taken tips to start practicing some of these things. I know I'm definitely going to be watching this again. So thank you for coming, Angela. It's been really awesome. Helen and I are going to very quickly wrap up the show. So please stay with us for a few more minutes whilst we do this. Thank you.
Well, that's the size of our package today. Together with you, we hope that we had a good show. Yeah?
Yes.
We have had a good show.
You look very pretty this morning.
I do. Oh my God, I'm blushing. Thank God. I would like to say thank you so very much for having been a part of the show today. We will come back again same time next week, Saturday morning, 9:30 for another edition. Feran, what are we looking at next week? Quickly? Still the same series?
Yes, still the same career development series.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm looking at communication.
Excellent. All right. You don't want to miss that next week. So join us again, same time, Saturday morning next week. We'll see you again. Bye.